Da 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 da. What's this, ladies and gentlemen? That was my cover of Beyond the Distant Skies, but in terms of this physical object, this is a Japanese binding blade guide that I bought at the Big House last year, and if you'll notice, it does have the Nintendo logo on it, so this is official. Now, I have done a video about a guidebook in the past, and you'll notice that the camera isn't shaking. This is because, ladies and gentlemen, since my Roy statue unboxing video, I have upgraded to tripod technology. Impossible, I know. But essentially this is in Japanese, so this is not going to be a video like, can you beat Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon the way Nintendo intended? Because I already made that video, for one. You can go watch it. And for two, does this look like a language I can read, ladies and gentlemen? However, there is one thing in this book my stupid American brain can actually understand, ladies and gentlemen, and that, my dear boys and girls, my friends, is the tier list system. That is one thing my idiot brain can understand, and if you'll notice, if you go to the character section in the back here, is that Roy Fire Emblem, and what's this? He has star ratings. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. So characters in this game, they're all given star rankings. There's the top there, and there's the bottom there. And they're done by two reviewers, both different people. And I'm just going to throw up Danny Doyle's Binding Blade tier list on screen right now. I'm going to be following this standard. I generally agree with most of it. I trust Danny's opinion. She's a pretty smart cookie, so I'm just going to follow that. And I'm going to take you back to the past, because we're going to go look at some interesting tiering decisions. And I'm just going to go by one. And yeah, so let's start out with my favorite one. Probably the one I noticed right away and was like, what the heck? Let's see. And I'm gonna be zooming out to gameplay in a second. Alright, so this is Diane, which means the one I want is... Okay, so it's the page before this. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Nime. Nime is often known to be one of the good units. You get her. She has A rank in Dark Tome. She has A rank in Staves. So, and she has massive magic at like base 21, and she has like enough magic to just get immediate good use out of the warp staff, which she can use at base. And that's very important for chapters like 21, 21X, the high magic growth, so you can actually, well, not the high magic, the high base magic, so you can actually get the use out of warp. And she gets 1 star, and she gets 1.5 star from the second reviewer. And I actually translated some of the Japanese, and it says, her powers are weak. And this is just Google, my Google phone translates, so it might not be the most accurate, and no training progress listed as a weakness. Now this is a thing where back in the olden days, the meta was like, oh, you gotta train the growth units, because you gotta get good growths, but some people just fail to acknowledge that it's okay for a unit to just be good at base. So Nime is generally accepted to be one of the better units in Binding Blade. Even though she has late availability, you just get her, and her staff rank and magic is just good. And you just use her, and she works, no effort required, even though no training progress is listed as a weakness. So now, ladies and gentlemen, that we've gone over Nime's epic star rating, which is 1, and then 1.5, so 2.5 star total, we're going to go over some characters that rank higher than her that I think are very funny, and I think you're going to be shocked by a few. I'll spoiler it now. Wendy is one of them. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Wendy. But let's go to my... the funniest example, which would be her grandson. Let's see, I think I passed it actually. The grandson, High Green, Percival. Let's see, Faye, and you can just look, okay, okay, so there's Douglas, so I skipped a page, my bad. Alright, so Hugh has 2 stars, and then 1.5 stars, which is more than Nime's total, which... Anyone who's played this game actively knows that that's kind of ridiculous. So why did they say that Hugh's good? They say he has a good balance of abilities, and that he is a mid-ground between Lou and Lilina, but no, he's just strictly worse. Because if you've been using Lou or Lilina up to this point, they'll just be better. Lou is the only mage you get for several chapters, so he pretty much has a monopoly on magic damage, and he just sort of... all the low-res targets, those are his food until you get Lilina, and Lilina starts at level 1 and kind of have low bases. She does have a high growth, so you kind of have to train her, but And what else do they say about her? They say he doesn't have the power to push aside Lilina, which is true, because Lilina, I think, has like the highest attack growth in this game. And they say his defense is relatively easy to raise for a mage. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let you know that Hugh has 20%, while Lou has 15%. So I guess if you consider that relatively easy, then yeah, sure, the 5% difference. And he only has, it actually says here, it says he has 13 base magic. If we go back to Rai, who's also, I guess, a mage who's fighting for the guiding ring. Usually my 2 guiding rings, I think you get up to this point, are used on, I think, yeah, it's Lou and Clarine usually. So let's go back all these chapters. So this is like 5 whole chapters before you get Hugh. This magic number, ladies and gentlemen, is 12. So that's your next magic user. And I will remind you that Naim, I think, has base 21 or 22 magic, but she was like, oh, her ability to grow is weak. I doubt Hugh would even catch up to Naim, because he has like a 30% magic growth, even if you promoted him and trained him. So this is 12, so this is 12 right here. And ladies and gentlemen, I will remind you that the less you pay for Hugh, the worse he is. So if you want a unit that's like terrible, but like whatever, you can pay the 10,000, which is like a fortune, on the same chapter where you get the secret shop. But then if you want to get him for cheap, he literally becomes worse than this guy, who you get prior. Like, I think he'll still, yeah, he definitely still has higher bases than Lilina and Lou, which are your other anima mages up to that point. But like, magic is magic in this game. Like, I don't even care about the magic weapon triangle. Sorry, my like tripod collapsed. What I was saying is that magic is magic in this game, and I don't really care about the weapon triangle. So if you like don't pay the 10,000 gold, which you shouldn't, he will literally like have a lower magic base than Rai. So what a lot of people do is that they just steal the members card from him and then kill him. That's what I did in my Iron Man I streamed personally. It's dire straits, people. Like, Hugh in no world. And if you promote him, he'll have the E-Staff rank, so he's not really like... So in terms of magic users, there's no way that like Hugh is even coming close to being better than Naim, which is his grandma. But you'll notice that even Rai has a questionable amount of stars. Like, I don't know about that. Like, I will show you on the other page, they gave the correct amount of stars to Milady. 3. The bottom guy didn't think Milady was as good. So, like, this tier list does have some correct stuff. Like, you know, Milady is, like, part of the Percival, Rutger, Milady, God trio. But yeah, I mean, it's dire, ladies and gentlemen. So now let's go to, like, more units that are better than Naim, I guess. Let's see, I know, okay, so we should be getting around there. Ogier, ladies and gentlemen, gets 2.5 stars from the top guy, and why is this? Abilities comparable to Diek. That's true, he has, like, 1 lower strength and 1 lower speed than Diek at base. Here's the thing, though, Diek joins, like, 5 or 6 chapters earlier. And they say, you know, he has the growth, he has the same strength growth as Diek. But so, you know, he doesn't even actually have a higher ability to grow. He does have higher speed, like Ogier has a 15% higher speed growth. And the top guy specifically mentions, oh, you can train him, and then he can use the Silver Axe and the Killer Axe, but the problem is if you promote him into a hero, he will start at E rank axes, so he's a long ways off from those. Like, it's like, and he has lower strength than Ogma. Like, you're going up on the Western Isles, which is a lot of axe users, so yeah, it's technically easier to train sword users, but, like, you've already, like, the thing is, he has 1 less strength, he has lower sword rank, and then, like, lower bases than Diek, like, several chapters, but the thing is, that's Diek's base, so if you've used Diek, which you probably have, since he's, like, one of the first few units you get, so you, like, he's force deployed for a few chapters, he's one of the first few units you get, so you've probably leveled him up a bit, so then he's just better than Ogier. It's not good. And then we have to go to Wendy. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you, in this book, they glaze triangle attacks. Like, they glaze them. Like, Wendy said, like, she has these 2 stars, which is more than they gave Naim. Like, Naim has 2.5 between the 2 of them, and Wendy just straight up has 3. So it says that Wendy makes the triangle attack possible, and to make good use of it, her skills are, I mean, that's true, but that requires you to deploy 3 Armor Knights in a game where to get the good ending, you need to beat, like, several chapters in under 25 turns, which is much harder to do if you deploy 3 Armor Knights. And Like, it says she's easy to develop, and that's not true, because literally in the chapter she joins in, the archers one-round her. Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever had a unit join in Fire Emblem, and the archers of that same chapter one-round them? I think in Fire Emblem Engage, Edia gets one-rounded by archers like 2 chapters after she joins because she sucks. But a lot of units in Engage suck. But, like, do you see what I'm seeing? Let's see what else do they say about her, because I wrote it all down. The second guy actually makes sense. Like, I think the first line in the second paragraph here is like, what is the point of a weak wall? And I agree with that heavily, but they still gave her a full star rather than half a star. When a unit like Sophia, like, I think they both gave Sophia half a star, which is appropriate. So, but I wonder why they didn't give that to Wendy. But the first guy usually says the more outrageous things. But that changes here with Lilina, who has 3 stars. The level 1 Trey unit. Lilina is pretty good if you do raise her, because she's one of the few units in Binding Blade with, like, consistent growths, like that 75% magic is pretty killer. But you get her at level 1, right? Like, she's one of the units that, like, if you do raise her, she will outclass Naim, where with Lou, it can be kinda questionable. Because, like, Dark Mage and Mage are, like, basically the same class. Except, again, with Naim, because of her high magic rank, unless you train Rai, she pretty much has a copyright on the, you know, exclusive rights to the Apocalypse, which raises her magic by 5, so, like, she pretty much gets 5 free magic level ups, essentially, compared to Lilina, who does not. So, shoot, depending on circumstances, Naim still might outpace, but 3 stars. Why do they give her 3 stars? Let's see. Lilina, my notes here are literally that they just glaze her magic growth, and that's it. They just glaze her magic growth. And then I completely skipped over Barth, who 2.5 stars. They literally acknowledge his low skill, because if you've played this game, like, you know the Barth meme, like, if you're familiar with the Binding Blade community, you know, like, the Barth Challenge YouTube video. Like, 2.5 stars, ladies and gentlemen. They literally point out his low skill growth and say he's not going to be hitting anything, but it's okay because he has the triangle attack. The second guy does point out that deploying 3 Armor Knights might be an issue, but they still glaze the triangle attack. It's like, oh, you just use the triangle attack and Barth always hits, so his skill isn't an issue. But that requires you positioning 3, that requires you positioning 3 different Armor Knights, all with low move, around the same unit, the same one unit just to kill it. So that is a bad ratio. That's 3 to 1, right? And again, it's not good, ladies and gentlemen. It's not good. It's not good. So that goes over that's my first section of units that I think are comically rated over Nime or Naim or however you want to say her name. So literally all of the Ostian trash units that you get, right? Because, like, all of these units that you get in this chapter are terrible, except Lilina, but only if you train her. She's not good at base. She is not good at base. You have to train her, which can be difficult depending on your goals in the game, since she starts at level 1 and has low bases. And if you've been using Lil up to this point, which you should have, because he's your only magic unit, he will just generally, like, be better. But she's fun. Let's go over to Igreen, because I think there's an interesting sort of inconsistency between her and Klein. Because on hard mode with the hard mode bonuses, Klein is, like, just the same unit. Well, actually, I'll save my talk on Klein for when we get to him. So, again, comically better than Naim or Nime. Because she has 2 stars across the board. So what they say about Igreen on... They do compare her to Klein in this text. It says her abilities are far superior, which is blatantly untrue. Like, if you have hard mode on, Klein has essentially the same stats as Igreen. Like, essentially the same. Like, I think Igreen will always have, like, 1 or 2 more speed, but that's whatever. And they say that, like, they say that her strength increases more than Klein's, even though they say that, like, she's a pre-promote, but she still has growths, which they like, because a lot of pre-promotes in this game don't have growths. But, like, her and Klein's strength growths are the same, and their bases are essentially the same. On hard mode, at least, because Klein gets a boost on hard mode. But Klein has, like, A rank bows, so he can use silver bows right away, while Igreen cannot. And you get Klein several chapters earlier, so you go through that bridge chapter with Klain where there are 2 bridges and Percival shows up for the first time. There are a lot of wyverns in that. If Klain's like a good filler unit for that, or just like a good unit for that, and then you go to the desert, which has a lot of flyers coming at you. So for all of those chapters, you can be using Klain, and with his like 45% strength growth, which is pretty good for a pre-promote, and be getting those levels. So again, it's like, by the time you actually get to Igreen, if you've been using Klain, he will just be better on hard mode. And then there's like, if you don't use either of them, and you're on chapter 21, and you're like, geez, there are a lot of Wyvern and Wyvern reinforcements on chapter 21. Am I going to use the unit with this that can use the silver bow? Or am I going to use the unit that can't use the silver bow, but they have the same stats? Now let's just go back to Klain, because they gave Klain 1 star. And I actually used him in my Iron Man, and Klain's pretty good. Just like, because he just comes, and he's like, as strong as Igraine is. Let's see, yeah, so there's Echidna, let's see, there he is. Yeah, so here's Klain. They gave him 1 star, and they actually, like, directly compare him to Igraine, which I think is funny. They say, 1 star, you know, they say, like, they agree that Igraine is better, and to just use him as filler until Igraine shows up. And if you do that, he will, like, end up statistically better than Igraine because of his better strength growth. But the bottom guy says that Sin and Sue already exist, so, like, why even bother with this guy? Which, you know, I'm a big Sue fan, so I kinda agree, kinda. Like, this guy has way better bases, but Sue, I think, is just a better long-term investment. And Sin is just, has, like, one of the highest cons in the game, and just has god-tier bases on hard mode. So if you want a bow unit, Sin pretty much just has you covered. So I guess that's kinda true. But there are a lot of Wyvern Riders in this game, so you might want 1 or 2. So I kind of disagree with this Klain 1-star rating. Like, they literally glaze the hell out of Igreen, but then this guy is, like, the same, but several chapters earlier and has a higher weapon rank. So I think that's funny. And then, let's go to Shauna. Do-do-do. So yeah, also, like, comment, and subscribe if you like this video. Oh, but I thought this one was pretty egregious. We have literally Dorothy at 2.5 stars. This is more stars than Percival. Like, they just say Percival, oh, he shows up and he doesn't have a lot of room to grow, even though he has good weapon ranks and god bases. But Dorothy, I guess Dorothy's worth glazing. But nah, let's go back to Shauna. Their rating for Rutger's pretty good. 3 stars, you know, 2.5. This is correct. Clarine. Shoot, how do I forget her name? Yeah, like, some of their ratings are correct. Like, this guy thinks Clarine is better than Rutger, which is not true, but, like, generally she's the healer you're going to be using for the first part because she has Kanto, and that's just convenient for a healer. Alright, so we have Shauna, who they give 1 star and 1.5 star to. So why'd they do that? They said there are no early maps where flying is essential, but that's just so, like, even in her beginning chapter, there's that big mountain you can use. You can rescue people too if they're in danger. There's, I think, chapter 8, which is the Ostian City. She can fly all over all those houses to gain advantageous positions, visit houses while your other units are still doing work. In the chapter after you rescue Lilina, in the chapter where you rescue Lilina, she gets the Elysian Whip, and she's your only flyer up to that point, so that's pretty much hers. And so you can just promote, get her used to swords, and then since, like, that entire thing is just axe users, you can literally just have her fly her out, visit the houses. Oh, she won't get hit because she has high speed and the sword, so the axe opponents won't hit her. Like, and like a lot of so many mountains and Binding Blades, so many large bodies of water. Like, Shauna just gets it done, and rescue skipping is awesome. Like, in that chapter where you get Echidna, it's a giant walled, you know, city. Shauna can just, you know, pick up Rutger, drop him on the right side where all those guys are, and then Rutger solos. Like, rescuing is really, really good in this game. And Shauna is, like, the best one to do it, and she has a copyright on it at least until Thea shows up. And by the time Thea shows up, you've, like, already given Shauna the Elysian Whip. So she's just, like, years and years ahead. Like, the second guy specifically questions, the guy who gave her 1 star instead of 1.5, he questions, is Milady the only good flyer? No! No, Shauna's right here! Like, that's literally a line in this. Like, it's Google Translate, so it might be a little suspect. But yeah, I guess, like, I don't know. But I think, like, did they rate, I forgot what Ugir's total star rating is, but I think it's higher than Deeks, which is insanity. But, so there's Deeks in case you were curious. But yeah, Shauna is just completely devalued in this. Like, I think literally Hugh, who doesn't do anything, has crap bases. Like, literally Rai several chapters earlier has a comparable magic base, and it's even less if you don't pay him. So Hugh in this is comparable to Shauna, who you're probably training anyway because you don't want to go to Sakai, so you probably give her more EXP than Sue. That's most players anyway. It's just, like, at 1 star, I think Shauna is completely ridiculous. And there is one last thing I wanted to talk about, and that's the dancers. They both gave them the same rating, so let's go to that. Let's see. Okay, at least they gave her the correct rating, because I always kill her in all my playthroughs. I literally don't even remember her name. Because I've never used her, but I know she has a fat alt before Boris is even in the game, which is kind of cringe. Alright, yeah, so I agree with the Gonzalez rating, because I think Gonzalez is kind of underrated. I think he's pretty good. He's one of those units that just wins, you know, he has the little skill, but, like, a lot of the enemies, like the Cavaliers and the Wyverns, use lances, so he pretty consistently has weapon triangle advantage, and he has a high crit rate, so Gonzalez is a unit that just wins, so, like, I'm a big proponent of Gonzalez. I don't agree that he's bad. But now we have the dancers. And they were given 2 stars. They gave the other guy the same rating. We could just go to him, but, like, I think he's, like, a couple pages. Yeah, so they both have 2 stars, so, like, 4-star total. And, yeah, here we go. So, here we go. Lorem, they knock her off for not being able to fight, but the thing is, I think this was a common thing. I was not a Fire Emblem fan back then. I was an Awakening baby, but I've heard that in the early days of, like, Serene's Forest and forums and crap, that they would undervalue dancers because they would just be like, oh, just deploy another unit that one-run stuff instead. But here's the thing. Let's say, okay, hypothetical. Remember how they're glazing Lelena? Let's say Lelena is the best unit in your army, right? Let's say Lelena is the best unit in your army. And she just one-shots everything because, oh my god, that's 75% magic growth. You can have Laylam dance for Lelena, and now you have essentially 2 Lelenas per turn. So that's the logic, you know. You essentially get your best unit twice with a dancer. So, today when people play Fire Emblem, they, like, literally always deploy the dancer. Like, always. But apparently the logic was different back then. Apparently the logic was quite different. What they say, she's vulnerable to enemy attacks, but, like, why does Clarine have 3 stars then? Or Claire, you know, Wrecker's girlfriend. I can't remember if it's Claire or Clarine. Right now. You know, it's like, oh, she gets one-rounded by everything, so why are you knocking off Laylam for that? That's weird. And she says she's often targeted by the enemy. Again, that's like a skill issue, so they're knocking off stars for this because of a skill issue, because, like, they played this game and they thought, oh, I'm going to put Laylam in enemy range. That's so epic, right? Some units in Fire Emblem and strategy games in general just aren't meant to take hits, and that's okay. That doesn't really impact their viability. That's why you have 2.5-star Barth. Am I right or am I right, ladies and gents? That's what he's for. So I think knocking her off for these guys literally having a skill issue is pretty unfair. But that's besides the point, I guess. And then... yeah, and then they say she has a lack of movement, which is true. And then they recommend giving her the boots. She does have a lack of movement, but again, we have Shauna, who's a fire, that they gave 1 star to, and it's like, oh, Laylam's falling behind, I could get Laylam across this mountain in, like, 2 turns, and now Laylam is caught back up, whoop-de-doo. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of like, I don't really agree with that, and, yeah, that was pretty much the last thing I wanted to talk about. So as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, this thing is full of, like, suspect ratings, like the iGreen thing. Let's see what they give Faye. Faye gets glazed, I guess, 2.5 stars, even though she has a very limited weapon use. Faye does have tech, like if you deploy her last, the status stays will always target her. And she's good for that, but she does have limited weapon use, which is terrible. Really bad, actually. But yeah, that is my video on the official Fire Emblem Binding Blade tier list. I guess like, comment, and subscribe if you liked it. I don't know, this kind of isn't really one of my high quality edited videos. I just wanted to kind of chill and talk about this guidebook that I thought was funny. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, see you next time. Bye-bye.